It's time for Mr. Fundamental!
Presented by no one.
My last video on the Raptors and the Celtics series highlighted how the NBA is a star-driven league. Both teams were well coached, but the Celtics came out on top with more star power. The Clippers and Nuggets series was pretty similar. While Murray and Jokic are considered stars, most would still take Kawhi and PG over those two. But basketball is a team game, and the Clippers relied on their belief that they could turn it on at any moment. Nonetheless, the Clippers' elimination was still quite surprising, so let's check out what happened. Clippers' offense was pretty stagnant most of the time, and relied a lot on their stars to create something out of thin air. People could argue that they've been doing this all season long, and they're bound to have off nights. But both Kawhi and PG have been isolating against the Nuggets' best defenders in Grant, Craig, Millsap, and Harris. Sure, they can still score over them, but if they were having an off night, these just become bad possessions. Both their stars didn't make it easier for themselves either. Grant does a good job on the first screen. When Zubac flips it, this should have been a prime time for Kawhi to drive. Instead, he holds onto the ball for too long and allows the defense to recover. This turns into another isolation, and Pat Bev had to throw up a contested shot. While involving both your best players is a good thing, Kawhi and PG ball screens are pretty redundant, since the Nuggets' best defenders would just switch. I don't remember seeing the Clippers putting an emphasis on forcing a Murray switch, who's probably their weakest one-on-one defender. This was effective in the Mavs series, and it helps bend the defense out of shape. They won't be able to force a switch with Jokic sagging back, but it should be easier to get a mismatch on Murray. A quick look at the Clippers when they actually run some actions. They had PG set a screen first, then another screen back to the middle. This forced a switch, and Jokic is out of position to shadow Murray. Kawhi curls off the screen as a diversion, then PG comes off the same screen, and an easy pocket pass leads to a dunk. Back-to-back handoffs gets Harris playing too high up. The flip screen gets Harris out of position, and forces Jokic to step up higher. Another pocket pass sucks in the defense, but Zubac finishes himself. Just a quick pick and roll out on top leads to the mismatch in the corner. On the drive by Lou Will, it forced the defense to collapse again. The Clippers keep the ball moving, and the Nuggets one step behind, until they find the best shot in the offense. Having some action and attacking off the catch just generates much easier and open looks, compared to isolating on the opponent's best defenders. Most importantly, this would have led to more switches with Jokic on the perimeter, which is when the Clippers should go to work one-on-one. Another obvious reason the Clippers lost to the Nuggets is that their supporting cast wasn't making shots. There's just no way around it. The Clippers were below average from deep during this series, and to make things worse, the Nuggets are known to give up corner threes, which are the easiest ones. On the pick and roll, the Nuggets always sent help from the corner. Nice ball movement by the Clippers, but Green couldn't knock it down. Whenever the Nuggets team defense loads up on their stars, the Clippers aren't making them pay. Maybe that's why Kawhi decided to take it upon himself when facing this double team, by ignoring Morris in the corner and throw up an off-rhythm jumper. Another elephant in the room on the defensive end is the lack of playing time for their two best bench scorers, a strength they've had all season long. I know their production took a hit compared to the regular season, but they're still a good source for an offensive spark. Harrell is way too quick for Jokic and just generates buckets or draw fouls on their best player. I made a video on Harrell and how he impacts the Clippers. The main highlight is Harrell's ability to go from being a non-scoring threat to a dangerous one in a matter of seconds. Coming down the floor, Plumlee is sagging in the paint and preparing to help. It makes sense since Harrell is a non-threat outside the paint. But within a second, Harrell dives to the rim to receive the pass. Craig is now late on the rotation. Plumlee is too deep on initial help, and Harrell gets the and one. Here's the identical play, and Harrell draws the foul on the dive. By just doing that, Harrell forced the defense in a tough position. Check out how Jokic is already in the paint, preparing to help on the pick and roll. The moment he uses up his 3 seconds, Lou Will drives, and Jokic is out of position to help. Lou Will gets right to the rim, but blows the layup. Lastly, the Lou Will and Harrell dynamic duo always generates great results. Both Kawhi and PG are pull-up threats as well. These high ball screens were pretty rare for the star duos, which could have forced Jokic to guard in space more often. On the other end, the Nuggets ran circles around the Clippers. While this is partly due to the roster construction, the Nuggets basically worked away from the Clippers' strength. The Clippers' bigs just couldn't keep up with Jokic's modern game. The Clippers tried to change things up and put wings or mobile bigs on Jokic and switching everything, but Jokic has the traditional post game as well. Combine that with his height advantage, the Clippers had no answer for these rainbow jumpers. The Clippers started to double Jokic, but the Nuggets are prepared to send through cutters. Grant's cut brings Kawhi over as well. A nice fake gets both Kawhi and Zubac to move towards Harris, and Grant gets rewarded in front of the rim. Another double, and another cut by Grant. The three weak side players essentially rotate in a circle. Harris lifts, while Millsap fades to the corner. This forces both Lou Will and Morris to pick their poison, and they give up an open three. Compare the Clippers double to the Nuggets double. It always comes from the offensive player's blind spot, and they get the steal. Again, PG attacks Murray out on top. Morris helps the moment PG turns his back on him. He doesn't see this coming, and throws an off-target pass to Green, leading to a turnover. On the Jokic double, Kawhi helps within Jokic's passing vision. The Nuggets weren't shooting that much better than the Clippers from deep, but benefited off of great dives and cuts to the rim instead. The Clippers had two of the best wing defenders in the league, but they were neutralized, since the Nuggets rarely isolated on them. The Murray and Jokic ball screens are already deadly enough to bend the defense, and creates openings for the rest of the team. But the Nuggets did the opposite of the Clippers, and constantly ran sets to get defenders trailing. They reverse the ball, and gets Murray sprinting off a double pin down. This is essentially a pick and roll for Murray and Jokic, with some extra separation from Pat Bev. The drive puts Harrell in a tough position, since he should help on Murray, but also fear the Jokic pop. He gets stuck in no man's land, and Murray floats it in. Mike Malone showed off some adjustments on the fly. With the doubling working so well, they targeted Lou Will with Grant. It's surprising that the Clippers doubled, and a cross-court pass gets Murray a 3-ball. With the Clippers cutting into the lead in Game 7, they got Jokic in a guard set by coming off a pin down. This leaves Kawhi trailing, and forced Harrell to step up, leaving Grant open in a dunker spot. When the Clippers put Kawhi on Jokic, they ran the pick and pop with Millsap instead, and generate another open shot from deep. Lastly, the Clippers had quite a lot of defensive lapses, especially considering that they hang their hat on defense. Kawhi decides to late switch, while Zubac thought Kawhi would chase Murray. This leads to a wide open 3 for Murray. A simple pin down for the sideline inbound gets PG trailing this much, and Murray already put up 25 points before this. In transition, the Nuggets weren't really pushing the ball up, but the Clippers left a man completely wide open, but MPJ couldn't make them pay. They had a lot of problems with switching. While PG and Pat Bev were about to switch, Craig cuts in the last second, and PG was late to recover. Letting the Nuggets get in the bonus was just giving up easy points at the line, but it also slowed down the Clippers' offense. Add on the fact that the Nuggets were out hustling the Clippers, the Nuggets came out on top. PG said the Clippers were fatigued and couldn't play stretches for longer than 3 minutes. This is worrisome, since stars like PG and Kawhi have played full games before, while Lou Will and Harrell weren't even close to the regular season minutes. Is there something we don't know behind the scenes? Maybe a team trip the night before the game for Lou Will's favorite lemon pepper wings. All jokes aside, the adversity throughout the bubble could have been a factor, but having players in and out of the lineup throughout the year definitely didn't help with chemistry. It is definitely too early to panic for this Clippers team, especially with most of their core still under contract. The Clippers had to face 2 very tough opponents to start the playoffs, with modern-day stretch bigs as their top players. The Clippers took down the Mavs, since Luka was the main facilitator of the league's best offense, and had both Kawhi and PG to throw on him. The Nuggets relied on Jokic to facilitate, but the Clippers couldn't match up with the 7-foot jumbo point guard. The Clippers' top priority is still retaining Morris, while Harrell might outprice himself. Getting a big who could guard both in and out could be hard with a cap situation, but a stretch big enforcer like Aaron Baines could be within reach. While this won't solve their matchup problem defensively against modern bigs, it will force the likes of Jokic and KP to guard in space, and give them a taste of their own medicine. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to drop a like down below, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.